Recorded.
Welcome and thank you for joining us today for the meeting of the New York City Health and Hospital Capital Committee. Today's meeting is officially called to order. Please note, for the record, Sally Hernandez Piñero is virtually participating in a listening capacity only. According to Section 14 of the bylaws, committee attendance, if any member of a standing or a special committee of the board will not be present at a scheduled committee meeting, the member may ask the chair of the board to request that another board member, not a member of that committee, attend the scheduled meeting and be counted as a member for purpose of quorum and vote. For the record, Sally Hernandez Piñero has delegated Dr. Patricia Matron to be counted as a member for the purpose of quorum and voting in her place. Now, I would like to propose a motion to adopt the minutes of the Capital Committee meeting held on December 5th, 2022. Any second?
Second?
Thank you. So let me go over. Uh, Jose,
Yes.
Dr. Katz,
Yes.
Dr. Marton. The motion is adopted. Next, we will hear from Senior Assistant Vice President report, Mr. Saez.
Thank you and good morning. This month, the Office of Facilities Development has updates on several initiatives. We continue to diligently prepare for a long-awaited triannual Joint Commission survey at Elmhurst Hospital. We continue to send supporting trades from other facilities in preparation for the survey. This year, we expect Joint Commission surveys at Elmhurst, Bellevue, Woodhull, Queens, and Carter facilities. We have begun procuring urgent repair services over our Woodhull boilers. The boilers were manufactured in 1972 and have exceeded their anticipated life expectancy. Woodhull's hospital's facilities team has performed the required preventative maintenance on the boilers. However, the boiler plant was hit with serious tube failures, and as a result, this expeditious repair will allow for all three boilers to properly be retubed and refractored in order to extend the life of our heating systems. Over the Martin Luther King holiday weekend, the Metropolitan Hospital, we experienced water valve connections out of the main house tank. It experienced a loss of integrity and began to severely leak water. And as a result, our in-house team conducted emergency overnight replacement of the failed valves, preventing a more serious situation from occurring. And today we have two items to present: a request to award system master planning and facilities assessment services, and a request to award contract to GEMCO for emergency electrical systems upgrade type 1 EES at Metropolitan Hospital. Be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Jose?
No questions. Thanks.
Dr. Katz?
No questions.
Dr. Marton? Manny, I have a question. You know, we just went through a cold snap. Uh, how did we fare in
We
terms
did.
of the heating, pipes, everything? Everything went well in all our facilities?
Yes, nervously so. We did do very well over the weekend. I was on the phone with Woodhull in particular over Friday night into Saturday. We had all three boilers fired up, rotating flame increases, and we were able to get through the weekend calmly.
Oh, that's good to hear. I know that some of our infrastructure is old, and with this type of temperature, no one knows what may happen. So I'm glad that everything worked out well, and also I'm glad to hear that you were on notice and having all the teams they are ready to support if anything were to happen. But I'm glad that nothing happened. So thank you for sharing. Um, Next, we have two action items for consideration. Mr. Saez, please read the first resolution into the record and proceed with the presentation.
I certainly will. Authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to execute a contract with GEMCO Electrical Contractors to complete an upgrade of the emergency electrical type 1 at New York City Health and Hospitals Metropolitan Hospital Center for a term up to 30 months for the proposed construction project for the amount including a 10% project contingency of $745,300, not to exceed $8,198,300. I'm accompanied by my colleagues Oscar Gonzalez and Tamika Campbell, and I would hand it over to Tamika Campbell for the bulk of the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. So just to provide a little background, the EES Type 1 is emergency power system that provides the separation of emergency power for three distribution branches. Those branches are critical, life safety, and equipment. Metropolitan current existing system does not meet the NFPA code requirements, and we were cited a few years back by CMS and granted a waiver by DOH MH to get this work done. The 3 branches to support our emergency power system will be done throughout the entire facility. Next slide, please. The procurement process of this contract, we had a tour for approximately 8 bidders. We received 3 proposals back in October 12th, 2022, and the qualified lowest responsible bidder was Gemco, and that was identified at 10/28/2022. Next slide, please. So this is just a breakdown of the MWBE goals for Gemco. There's 5 vendors, which equate to 31% at 2.310,430 million. And Gemco is currently a JOX contract with us, and they were previously. And the rate-in for their 2 contracts, that one that was held in 2020 to 2022, and the other 2018 to 2020, they had a rate-in of 84% on one, and the other was 93%, the evaluations. This project is expected to begin 2023 spring and completed at fall 2025. Next slide, please. So these are just a few questions that were identified in the performance evaluation for Gemco, and they actually did very well with a score between 81% and 90%, which is qualified as good. Next slide, please. So the budget breakdown for this contract consists of construction at 7 mil for, excuse me, 7,453,000 with a contingency of 10% at 745,300, which is a not to exceed with the 2 of 8.198,300 mil. The resolution, this is to act to basically not to exceed, to enter into a contract with Gemco for approximately 30 months at a not to exceed of 8.198,300 mil with a contingency of 745,300, and the contract total is for 7,453 mil.
Thank you. So let me open up the floor for questions. Jose, any question?
No questions, thank you.
Dr. Katz?
No questions, thank you.
Dr. Marton? I do have a question, 2 questions from Sally. I'm asking her these questions on her behalf. What have been some of the real-world problems confronted by Metropolitan as a result of the electrical issues?
I don't, well, I'll give a lay answer, because and then Manny or Oscar can give a technical answer, or you. It's just not fitting with the current rules. The ideas are that you should isolate the electrical system. So when it was built the way systems were built at that time.
Yeah.
Since then, that's not anymore felt to be the correct way to do it. But we haven't had any actual problems. It's just that there is a greater potential for problems when the systems are not separated out. Is that for you experts, is that a fair?
100% correct.
And is this now also a requirement because you are doing some renovations, and according to that, DOB always asks you to go up to code.
Yes.
If you were not touching anything, you could, in theory, stay. But I think here the best practice.
No,
we have
the state would not allow us.
Oh, the state. So that's
Because
why.
of part of the hospital standard, right? With hospitals are always appropriately held to a higher safety standard because it's so hard to evacuate people in the case of an emergency.
Okay. So in that case, it's both are requirements that you need to go to the new code.
This is a CMS requirement.
CMS requirement. Okay. I hope that answered the question. Is there a way if Sally has a follow-up on this that I can ask it, or?
She texted to you?
Sally, if you have any follow-up on this, text it to me. If you think that this was a satisfactory answer, I have my phone in front of me. So I will ask the second question, but please, if you have any follow-up to this, please send me a text. The second question, that means from Sally's perspective, I'm concerned because there is a real need for master planning and facilities assessment process, but 6 to 8 years seems too long. 2 million a year for four facilities and is sequential. And if it is sequential,
Then is
I
this
think
for the
that's for the
next-
second
next
one.
yes,
presentation.
Okay, so
Next
you will ask
presentation.
that question. Okay. Yeah, this is for the master. So Sally, that's for the second presentation, not for this one.
She's shaking her head.
Okay, so you have a copy of the question, is that correct?
We'll figure it out.
Okay, that's good. I don't see any text from Sally. Okay, so I do have a comment and a question. Is that I was in an event just the other day, and it was mentioned that Metropolitan is securing some funds from the federal government, which I think is good, and we have seen how Queens Hospital also have secured some of the federal government. Is there anything that could be shared in terms of what strategy we are following in order to have our hospital and our system to be? I know that Deb is working on that, but now with kind of the Inflation Reduction Act, there is money for energy efficiency and climate adaptation, as well as other fundings from the federal government are there. Any way that maybe some of the hospitals that have not been that active could learn from either Metropolitan and Queens, how they are doing it and kind of balance out? Because I think there is a great opportunity to amplify our reach and secure funding for some very needed projects.
And the overall perception was that, and I think true, health and hospitals did super well in the
Okay.
last bill. And I think in Calicia, I think we had in the last directors, did we have the specific programs that we got? If not, we should include it. I think we did. We did. So, okay, so we put in the director's report. As you'd imagine, Benny, it's a little bit also determined by the power of the member of House of Representatives or Senate, what we get, right? Because some of them are just much more powerful than others, and they're able to push through. And it also, they're not pork. They have to fit some criteria. So sometimes we get money because HRSA had set aside money, and this thing fits that thing, right? But certainly, we have a group of very savvy CEOs who I can't remember which one I was talking to the other day, and they're like, "Oh, Helen just texted me." Right, so our CEOs are like really active, and they get it.
Yeah.
Right, that this is the way. So we'll keep working on it. But I felt good about what we got last time. I thought we did quite well. I mean, the one thing which we all appreciate is it's because it's by district and because it has to fit something, it isn't necessarily as analytic as if you and I sit down and said, okay, our number one priority is this, our number two priority. It doesn't work that way.
It's more opportunistic.
It's much more opportunistic. But to the extent that we have needs all over the place, right? And also the idea would be complement, right? So if you have a strong federal representative who can get you money, and then in a different place you don't, then we have to look for city money, perhaps, right? So it is, and the delegations don't always line up, which is good for us. So sometimes a hospital has a particularly strong local delegation, but not as strong a federal, and sometimes the opposite. So, we'll keep working at it.
Yeah, I think there is opportunity, and I'm glad to hear that. There is a lot of collaboration across our CEOs because, what work in one place may not work in another, but may also work if you kind of tweak it a little bit and be able, because it's all about presenting the case
Correct.
and kind of justifying the impact that this funding will have in not only in the hospital but kind of the whole New York. So I think that's very good. So I'm glad to hear that this is happening. So any other questions? No? So in that case, let me go for the vote. Jose?
Yes?
Dr. Katz?
Yes.
Dr. Marton? And Feniowski also say yes. So with that, the motion is adopted to be forwarded to the full board. And I recuse myself, and Jose will now lead the
So,
discussion.
Manny, let's move to the next resolution.
Okay.
This is,
Just wait until I leave.
Thanks.
Thank you.
authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to execute a standby requirements contract with Array Architects, PC, Perkins Eastman Architects, DPC, Gensler Architects, Design and Planning, PC, NBBJ Architect, BDP Architect, PC Moody, Nolan Incorporated, Perkins and Will Architects, PC, to provide master planning and facility assessment services across the system over a term of 6 years, with the system holding 2 one-year renewal options for an amount not to exceed 16 million. And with that, I'll hand that over to my colleague,
That was
Oscar
a mouthful, wasn't it?
Gonzalez, to present.
Thank you, Manny. So quickly on background, master planning is a critical need for long-term capital investments that will allow growth and development of our services by modernizing and expanding our physical environments. Our facilities are at various ages, with much infrastructure that does not conform to current standards, has exceeded useful life, or nearing an end of its useful life, limiting our ability to deliver state-of-the-art care. Our service efficiency is antiquated and our energy efficiency is not aligned with the system's goals. Master planning will allow us to revamp or reset our services in a manner that will increase productivity and create the opportunity to be aligned with our strategic pillars of quality and excellent service by means of our physical environments. These planning efforts will take time as there is much information to collect, assess, and draw out to maximize the outcomes. There will be 7 design firms to complete their master planning services in several years, along with an executive master planner to align the vision system-wide. All assignments will be done through mini RFPs. Next slide. The benefits, to develop a comprehensive physical plan to better align clinical services with the business goals, align future capital goals with our 10-year plan or beyond for all of our campuses in a more uniform standard, identify efficiencies, promote growth, and patient safety. Next slide. As I mentioned, we'll be doing mini RFPs within the pool for each engagement. We will assemble a governance team to include clinical and operational leaders and align with the community health needs and strategic pillars that will have regular check-ins, and eventually there will be a final report that will be shared amongst the leaders and the governance team. Next slide. Talk a little bit about the RFP criteria. We're looking for 7 years of experience, 7 years in business with licensed professionals, minimum 5 years of healthcare and design experience with an MWBE utilization plan. The substantive criteria was 30% approach and methodology, 25% firm experience, and 20% staff experience, 15% on WBE, 10% cost. The evaluation committee was made up of 4 members from OFD, 4 members from facilities, 1 member from management growth, 1 from finance, 1 from MMPA, and 1 from EITS. The overview of the procurement, next slide. Oh, that's it. Overview of the procurement. In August, we published to City Record. When we held our pre-proposal conference, 30 vendors attended. In September, the proposal deadline yielded 9 proposals being received. In October, we did the evaluation committee debriefed all of the proposals, and in November, we had our first round of scoring. The vendors that achieved the highest score were Array, Perkins, Gensler, MBBJ, BDP, Moody Nolan, and Perkins. Next slide talks through a little bit about their evaluations. Perkins Easements, we've done a lot of work with them. They have had several excellent evaluations, as well as some of the other evaluations that you see here, either excellent or good in general. We have not done work with Perkins and Will or BDP, but the reference checks with Maine Medical Center and UCSF, they all came in very positive, as well as for BDP from Mount Sinai. The news was very positive. The next slide shows you the MWBE analysis breakdown, showing the primes and their subcontractors, specifically the MWBEs. So for Array, you got 36%, Perkins, you have 30%, Gensler, you have 30%. Next slide. MBBJ, 45%, BDP, 47%. Moody Nolan is a WMBE firm themselves, so that would be 100%. Perkins and Will, 36%. So this is the official request. Office of Facilities Development is seeking approval to enter into contract with Array Array Architects, Perkins Easements, Gensler, NBBJ, BDP Architects, and Moody Nolan for a not to exceed of $16 million with a contract term of 6 years with 2 one-year renewal options to provide master planning and facility assessment services for all campuses of the health system, to develop a comprehensive proactive commitment plan to better serve our communities and to align with the health system's goals and initiatives. Annual budget of $2 million to complete 2 of 4 facilities per year based on size and complexity.
Oscar, Sally's question is a good question for fleshing this out. So it's 16 million maximum, 6 years, 2 one-year renewals, 8 years, and that's what gets you the annual budget of $2 million to do 2 to 4 facilities per year.
Right.
So first, if you had the capacity to do more, presumably you could spend the money more quickly, right? There's nothing that forces you to spend it at $2 million a year. That's just how, if miraculously we had the ability and the infrastructure to do, 10 hospitals in 2 years, we could do that under this. Is that correct?
That is correct. So long as that we have enough resources in-house to be able to
Right.
manage everything.
So I think, that's really, as I understand it, challenge, and maybe it's also a good time to say how well I think the facilities group, 3 of you and your colleagues are doing. For the board to understand, Health and Hospitals has huge infrastructure needs of every possible kind. Things we have to newly build, things we have to keep going with Scotch tape until we can build them. And this team has done phenomenal. And Manny is like calling me at 1 a.m. on Saturdays about water floods, and Oscar is busy trying to figure out how to move the mental health rebuilds faster to be compliant with the state. But I think, Sally, our goal, and this team knows it, is for the team to hire up and to do as much as we can do, but there are real constraints in terms of expertise at the facility and ownership. And these are not just plug and play. You can't just say, please go out and fix this hospital. You have to engage the doctors and the nurses and the administrators and the facilities people. So I don't want it to sound like a set of excuses, but I do want it to sound like I think this group is genuinely committed to improving our facilities as quickly as they can, and that they certainly understand the limitations of our existing buildings, and they are making up, I'm sorry to say, for several years of neglect. And that's just the reality, that for a long time, I think people felt, at the city level, that maybe some of these hospitals were going to close, and therefore it wasn't a good idea to invest in them. And if you're going to close hospitals, it's not a good idea to invest in them. So, through COVID, we proved that people need us, and now no one talks about closing the hospitals, and everyone wants us to keep the 10, and sometimes it seems like even the 10 are too crowded. it's just a different moment in time. And I think the idea of this contract is great. And if we were able to get it done faster and use up the money faster, we would, and we'd come back to the board and say, hey, we have good news. We used up, 8 years of money in 4 years. Because we were able to get all these projects done that we didn't imagine we ever could have done, and we want to engage in more contracts. But we definitely get that fixing our failing infrastructure is a very top goal for the next 5-year period.
So for the facilities that get in the queue, like 2, 3 years from now, let's say, are there ways of doing, I'm part of my ignorance here, like a light version of it or something that allows for decision making while the master plan is actually completed? You see what I'm going? Like maybe so that you can make some basic decisions when things are really,
Yeah, I mean, a light version.
the light version, I call
That's
it.
a
But
great way to put it. We have to start by collecting a lot of information from the facility, as Dr. Katz says. We got to listen to our doctors, to our nurses. We also have to listen to our patients and to the community needs. We have to understand how everything works. It's not just the infrastructure, but it's actually the services that we provide within the hospital. Does it make sense to have the ED over here? Maybe it should be over here. Maybe the MRI, the radiology room has to be shifted. So a lot of this information has to be collected, analyzed, and we have to develop a plan. So I think the low hanging fruit is what we know already. 70% of our infrastructure is already expired. The useful life is already gone. We know that we have to proceed with some of those projects, but there's a lot of other things that we don't know yet if it makes sense to shift. We've learned a lot from the Elmhurst Master Plan, and we can implement some of those learning lessons, like the parking lot, like um, excuse me, like some of the information that we can extract and put into a new plan. But can there be a lighter version? Yeah, they could be, but really we want to be able to see a full plan holistically, not only at the facility, but how it's going to expand across the system.
Dr. Marton?
So I would just add to that, Dr. Pagano, as we get off the tarmac here, it gives us the opportunity to kind of learn as we go. And as those outer facilities are awaiting, it gives us a better opportunity to kind of streamline things, to get a little more focused and be able to provide that lightened version in a very focused approach.
I think we do that light version every year with the new needs.
I
over there.
think so.
So we go through a cycle of O&B 3 times a year where we evaluate critical and urgent projects at the facilities. And that would kind of be the light version, the stopgap until we get to a full system-wide master planning report.
I think the light version just helps us keep the lights on and the doors open. What we're trying to do with the master plan is expand and grow and further develop. We want to provide a much better level of care, much higher level of quality of care, and that's what the master plan really does.
Dr. Marton?
So for me, my concern is I don't think 16 million is enough for what you're asking. You're talking about a long-term project. Even if you did use 16 million in 1 year for 2 facilities, then you're looking at the triangle of quality time and money, and you burn down more money if you're doing it fast anyway. So if you're using it over time, one, I suspect you'll be back for more money for whatever you're doing, just to even get through some of these facilities. I want to talk about the fact that you're engaging the staff. I think that's great because you're going to have to prioritize where you are going to spend the money, because I don't see how, again, you're going to have enough, even if you said, okay, I'll give you 2 million and this is what we're going to do, that's even going to be able to touch the surface for some of the things that are going on. And if that's the case, how much of a realistic conversation are you prepared to have with that staff when you start to engage them? Because high hopes come and then people get disappointed and it starts a bad cycle. So I hope you're ready to
Have some difficult
engage,
conversations.
have difficult conversations about how we make decisions
Yeah.
around what needs to happen in community needs in a hospital.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oscar, I think I don't know the best way to do this, but my most common experience in master planning on hospitals is that somehow the master plan tends to produce a beautiful thing that can't happen. And only after the beautiful thing that can happen are people able to engage in the creative work of how do we achieve what we want within what can happen. And I'm a little, because I'm a little cynical about consultants. I always worry that it's sort of in their interest to give you the perfect plan, as opposed to what I'm always interested in is what can I implement? What can I get done? So I mean, I just offer that as you go through this. I don't know what the best strategies are, but I just have had so many experiences with what I would consider really smart, creative people who produce answers that I can't implement, in which case I'm not really sure what good they are. So maybe, again, I'll leave it to an expert like you to figure out in the process what you can do to try to get people focused as soon as possible on what we can do, what we can really get done.
Yep. No, Dr. Kais, that's a really good point. Phasing and sequencing is a huge part of master planning. And I think for us it's even bigger because it helps us understand what's that first move, what's that first building that has to be demolished or rebuilt. And it also allows us to go to our elected officials to say, can I get $10 million or $15 million for this garage? Can I get the $20, $30 million for this ED? And it almost creates a sort of a la carte type menu for others to be able to subsidize our services.
Right, right. Or it's what Fenny said, that there's an analytic way of doing things, but then there's an opportunistic way of doing
Yes.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And that we tend to live in a world of opportunistic thinking, not a world of unlimited resources where we're just going to knock it down and build, the perfect thing. It's not our reality. And I feel that sometimes consultants, because you have in this, the top consultants, and most of their work is for much better funded systems and organizations like ours. So it's not surprising that they begin with, oh, okay, well, these are, and if you ask, groups of doctors and nurses what they need, they'll, draw up a whole, I need this, I need this, I need this. And you can't really then blame the consultants for going out and putting together a plan that addresses, oh, you need this, and you need this, and you need this. And then you put it all in a package and you present it to someone who has to implement it, and they go, but I can't implement this, right? This will just never happen. I think I mentioned my favorite one was 2 jobs ago when to build my new hospital, they said that we had to buy up a whole block of private houses in order to clear the space. And I'm like, are you guys crazy? There's no way that the Board of Supervisors is going to allow me to throw these people out of their houses in San Francisco. I mean, it's like, but we need that piece of land. It's like, but it's a non-starter. And that wasn't even about money. That was just about, you can't just go around kicking people out of their houses because you think that that's a convenient, but so you understand the point.
I understand.
So any other questions from the committee? So let's take it to a vote. Dr. Katz,
Yes.
Dr. Marton,
Yes.
Jose, yes. So resolution approved. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Is
thank
there
you.
any old or new business to come before the committee? Then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.